Ladies and gentlemen, 3 weeks ago, we saw 2,000 federal law enforcement officers flood into the city of Minneapolis, the largest federal law enforcement surge in this entire country's history. Then, about a week after, we saw another 1,000 federal law enforcement officers follow suit, flooding into the city of Minneapolis. Then, we heard from the DOJ that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey are under federal investigation for conspiracy to undermine federal law enforcement operations. Why is that word so important? Conspiracy. Why is that the charge out of all the charges? That's very important. Conspiracy. Well, the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, is because of this. This is an excerpt from none other than the Insurrection Act. And I quote from the Insurrection Act, "The president, by using the militia or the armed forces or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy." Or conspiracy. The president might invoke the Insurrection Act if there is a conspiracy. And once again, what charges are the DOJ, we know for a fact, looking to bring against Walz and Frey? Conspiracy. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, we got the news that President Trump currently has 1,500 active duty military personnel currently on standby outside of Minneapolis right now, waiting for something. We're not sure yet. They're waiting for President Trump to give the order. We're not sure what that order is going to be or when that order is going to come through the pipeline. But right now, as of this morning, they are on standby. This is a new development. We've also seen literally hundreds of FBI agents come flooding into Minneapolis over the last 3 weeks as well. So right now, word on the block is that right this very moment, all of these anti-ICE agitators, anti-ICE rioters, and all of these illegal aliens hiding out and fraudsters hiding out in Minneapolis are currently being monitored by federal law enforcement. What this means is that all of them are currently being tracked, monitored by the Trump administration, where they live, who they talk to, what they had for lunch. Their entire left-wing networks are currently being mapped out, charted. The FBI is building out a file for every single one of them right this very moment. And by the way, remember what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say just 3 days ago. He said, and I quote, "When this bear trap snaps shut, all of them are going to get caught." Well, as of this morning, that threat, I suppose you could call it a threat, is starting to sound a little bit more serious. It seems like President Trump here, the Trump administration, they have a very premeditated, longitudinal plan, step by step by step by step. The Trump administration, they're not just shooting from the hip here. They have a plan. They know exactly what they're doing. And so I want to show you a couple of clips here today, ladies and gentlemen. First off, this is from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. He's the second highest in command in the Department of Justice. Take a listen to what he had to say earlier this morning.
You saw the governor and the mayor actively encouraging criminals to go out on the street and impede ICE. That is not allowed under our law. When a federal officer is out doing their job, they have to be allowed to do their jobs. And the fact that we had to stand up and tell a mayor, that we had to stand up and tell a governor to stop encouraging the folks that are out there running around trying to stop ICE, to stop encouraging them, when what they really should be doing is helping their fellow federal officers, is something that's horrible. But listen, no matter who you are, whether you're a governor, a mayor, or somebody out there on the streets assaulting ICE, you cannot, under federal law, you cannot impede a federal officer doing their job. And that's what we're looking at. And I'm not going to talk about the investigation, but American people can see what the mayor's been saying. They can see what the governor's been saying, and it's obvious that that has to stop.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to get all of you too excited here, but this is a very big deal. We saw yesterday, we got the confirmation from the DOJ that not only are these two, Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, under federal conspiracy investigation, okay, and this intertwines with the Insurrection Act, but that also they are filing subpoenas. What is a subpoena? The DOJ, in accordance with this ongoing investigation, is pretty much saying, hey, listen, we are demanding emails, text messages, phone call records, call logs, private chat room messages, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, credit card history, whatever. Subpoenas are going out as it relates to this conspiracy investigation. And so once again, if we can prove conspiracy charges that these two individuals were conspiring, working together in a premeditated way to undermine and subvert and get in the way of federal law enforcement operations, it's going to be very bad for them. However, the conspiracy probe is bigger than just these two individuals. God knows how many other random Minneapolis or Minnesota state far left politicians, maybe state representatives or state senators, unelected bureaucrats in the state of Minnesota working in Minneapolis city government. Who knows how many of them were involved in this as well? We might be talking hundreds of people that are involved in this anti-ICE, anti-DHS conspiracy. But what's more, who knows? Maybe we start sending out these subpoenas. The DOJ is looking into this. Maybe Tim Walz sent a couple emails to Gavin Newsom. Maybe Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey was sharing emails with some politician in Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington, or who knows what they are going to find. I think assuming that this is only contained within Minneapolis or Minnesota, that is a mistake. These far leftists, they're talking to each other, interstate discussions, right? Who knows? Maybe Governor Tim Walz, he's sending emails or having phone calls with Gavin Newsom, for instance, saying, hey, listen, this is what we're doing over here in Minnesota. This is what you can do in California. This worked for us. This didn't work for us. You got to do this in California. Who knows? Okay, these subpoenas are going out. This might be the downfall of the entire apparatus. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we also heard very curious update from ICE Field Commander Greg Bovino as it relates to all of this earlier this morning. Take a listen here.
We're digging into the group organization, who's leading these groups. The FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, U.S. Border Patrol are all working in close concert. We're making great strides in identifying the ringleaders, and we're going to bring them to justice. And something else here is it's not only federal agents and federal property they're damaging, but they're also going after American citizens whom they might think are federal agents, and American citizens, say, driving an SUV. They're actually stopping those citizens on the highway, damaging their vehicles, slashing their tires. So it's not just federal agents, it's everyday Minnesotans that are feeling the pinch from these anarchists.
Yeah. They're live streaming
Exactly.
it. I mean, they're taking pride in what they're doing and want everybody across the country to see it.
So this is Bovino here. He reiterates they're going after the entire network. The entire network. Listen, this is not a collective of lone actors. This is a far left, who knows where the money's coming from, anti-American, highly subversive network of far left agitators. And they're going to try to bring down the entire operation. Now, side note, this is what Bovino here just said. He just said yesterday, and we saw this, we saw videos of this. These violent far left radicals on the streets of Minneapolis yesterday, they're becoming paranoid. Because they know the FBI is on the streets. They know the FBI might have even infiltrated their own far left networks and groups and organizations. Like we said a moment ago, the FBI, the Trump administration, DHS, they are infiltrating, they're building out cases, files. And so the far left, they are becoming paranoid. We saw yesterday far left agitators on the streets of Minneapolis. They were randomly, indiscriminately attacking white men. I kid you not. If you're a white man walking around downtown Minneapolis, at this point, you are getting accosted, harassed, and attacked by these far left agitators. If you're a fit and trim, looking good white guy, your hair is cut a little bit too short, and you're thin and fit, then they assume, oh, you must be an undercover agent. You must be an undercover ICE agent. These far left radicals, they're going crazy. They're becoming paranoid. Trump is tearing down the entire apparatus. Now, we also hear once again from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche as it relates to all of this.
Local leadership told citizens to call 911 when they see ICE. They did not tell citizens to call 911 when they see ICE officers being assaulted and attacked. And to the contrary, police officers are not anywhere to be seen around the ICE facilities. When the ICE officers are out doing the work they have to do, there are no cops around. And that is not the way that it takes place in cities across this country. In virtually every place we go in, we get support from law enforcement because that's their job. And again, this is not an indictment of the men and women who are police officers in that city. This is an indictment of the leadership that's telling them what to do. And that's why President Trump is looking at all available options and will continue to do so, because the local leadership is not letting local law enforcement do their job.
Now, you can call me an extremist. You call me a far-right radical. God forbid. Here's my honest opinion, though. All of these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that are commanding, they are telling their local and state law enforcement to not work with or collaborate with federal law enforcement. In my opinion, that alone is you've already crossed the threshold of undermining and impeding federal law enforcement. I have a very low bar. If you're a sanctuary city mayor, and you, like Jacob Fry, for instance, and you instruct the Minneapolis Police Department to not work with federal law enforcement, do not pick up the phone, don't talk to them, don't back them up, do not provide support or information. As far as I'm concerned, that already you are impeding federal law enforcement. Already you are engaging in insurrection. That is my humble opinion. Let me know if you agree. So as far as I'm concerned, that threshold has already been met time and time again in literally every single sanctuary city, sanctuary state across the country. If you ask me, Seattle, Washington as a state, Oregon as a state, all of these sanctuary states, California as a state, these are all states that are engaging in insurrection. That is my humble opinion. Now, you want to talk about insurrection, take a look at this. We had an astounding, shocking leak come out today. This is going to blow your mind. This is an email that was sent to every single Minneapolis city employee on Friday, just 2 days ago. Take a look at this. This is an email sent out to thousands of employees in Minneapolis. It says here, working with partners, the city is tracking reports of ICE activity and working with community groups to share accurate information and resources, guiding city staff on how to respond to ICE activity if it is reported, and how to protect residents' rights and safety. So this is a leak. It came out today. This is going viral right now. The Minneapolis city government, I don't know who exactly sent this email, but you can see it was sent to every single city employee. I'm not sure who sent it out. They're instructing people once again how to impede and undermine ongoing ICE enforcement, federal law enforcement operations. So you want to talk about conspiracy? You want to talk about collusion? Well, you're looking at the evidence right now. This came out earlier today. Now, let's double back to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. What has he got to say about this 1,500 troop surge that Trump has on standby right outside the city of Minneapolis?
Well, you said occupying force. Don't you think it's a bit much?
I mean, look, you can go through whatever rhetorical flourish you want, but when you have 3,000 ICE agents and border control come to the city, when you've got this supposed threat of 1,500 military coming to the city, yeah, that's very much what it feels like. When you outnumber local police officers 5 and 6 to 1, that is the vibe. And so the bottom line is, if the goal were safety, this is not how you get there. If the goal is safety, I can give you a very antidote to some of the violence that we're seeing, and it's have them leave.
Well,
Just have them leave. That is his solution to all of this. Once again, hey, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, why exactly have all of these federal law enforcement officers surged into your city? Well, the answer is because you, under your leadership, Mayor, you have decided to aid and abet and harbor God knows how many violent, criminally delinquent, illegal aliens that are invaders in this country in direct defiance of the overwhelming democratic will of the American people. We all recently had a referendum, an election, on whether or not we wanted our country to go down this route. We voted for Trump. We voted for ICE. We said no. You are in open defiance of the federal government, more importantly, the democratic will of the American people. And what's more, you are complicit in funneling billions of dollars from the federal government, that's us federal taxpayers, into the pockets of illegal aliens. So yes, this is why. And on top of all of that, when the Trump administration asks for your help to help, hey, listen, help us get rid of these people. What do you say in response? You actually issue a stand down order to the Minneapolis police force, instructing them to not collaborate or work with or help federal law enforcement. Yes, this is why all of this is happening. You have brought this entire situation upon yourself. You have nobody to blame but yourself. Now, we hear from Stephen Miller. Everyone's favorite Stephen Miller. Take a listen to this. He chimed in late last night on this entire ongoing dynamic.
What Democrats are doing is vote harvesting, fraud harvesting, ballot harvesting, crime harvesting. Ask yourself, why would Frey, why would Waltz sanction such egregious violence against ICE officers? Because they understand that this scheme, this mass migration scheme, is the heart of the Democratic Party's political power. It is their plan for power today and long into the future. So they know that if this administration of President Trump is successful in reversing this invasion, it will deal a generational blow to Democrat political power.
Well, before I let
folks, we have, first off, Stephen Miller is absolutely right. Folks, we got the news. I kid you not. Great news, everybody. We heard 2 days ago that the Trump administration, ICE, so far, they have already successfully deported so many illegal aliens from Minnesota over the last 3 weeks that Minnesota, whenever the next census takes place, might be 2030, might be sooner, Minnesota is set to lose 1 seat in Congress in the House of Representatives and 1 electoral college vote. Because as you know, the seat number, total seats you have, and how many votes in electoral college you have, this is built on a ratio of how many people are living in your state. It's a population game. And so Trump has already deported so many people, Minnesota is losing a vote and losing a seat. And so this goes back to what Stephen Miller just said a moment ago. The reason why the Democrats are having a meltdown and fighting back tooth and nail, they're screeching every single day about this, is because they know that if President Trump's ongoing deportation efforts are successful, if we end up, by the grace of God, successfully deporting 25 million people, 30 million people, however many it is, the Democrats are never going to win another election ever again. First off, many of these illegal aliens are voting for Democrats illegally. We know that. That's one component. Well, you deport them. Goodbye, voters. The other component is we're talking about the census and how we allocate our congressional House seats. It's based on population, and the number of votes we have in the Electoral College. It's based on population. If we start deporting all of these people, well, guess what? Most of them live in blue states. If you're an illegal alien, where are you probably residing? In a sanctuary state, of course, because you feel a little bit safer. So if we deport these people, the Democrats, they are never going to have control of this country ever again. And so the Democrats, they know right now, they are, in effect, facing, right this very moment, existential crisis. Their entire plan of opening up the border, flooding the country with tens of millions of illegal aliens from the third world, padding their numbers, artificially inflating their population, having these people vote illegally, that was their plan. And they have been working towards this for a very, very long time. We all know that's the case. Trump is ripping their entire plan apart to shreds. And so this is why they're freaking out. But you know what? I'll tell you something. This is what has to happen if we actually want to, one, make America great again, and two, put America first.